Welcome to BossUp Babes, helping babes show up, boss up, and thrive. With #1 best-selling author, global influencer, and ultimate boss babe, Karissa Adkins. Karissa is a health and wellness expert and CEO of the 365 Daily Hustle, here to help mompreneurs and career-focused women boss up and reclaim their healthiest life. She is a pro at cutting through the BS and inspiring massive breakthroughs that help women create healthy routines and habits that facilitate personal and professional growth. Are you ready to reclaim your best life, take action, and be a badass boss babe? Let's get to it. What's up, you guys? Welcome to the BossUp Babes show. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that we are in the week of Thanksgiving already. My gosh, the time flies. If you have not sat down and thought about your next year's goals, especially as a business owner, you want to do that right now. I know I've got it scheduled on my calendar for next week, but it's crazy. Anyways, this show is dedicated to all you entrepreneurs, you innovators, you hustlers, and personal development junkies out there. If you are listening live, welcome. Please comment below wherever it is that you're listening on, whatever platform we are on, streaming on over 50 different sites. And so this is definitely, the show definitely goes nationwide, international wide as well. Next week, this episode right here, you'll be able to catch it, the visual, right? So we're on TV. We take BossUp Babes to motivationandsuccess.com, where we'll stream all these episodes. You can actually binge watch if you're bored this weekend when all the guys are watching football. You can definitely go binge watch all of the episodes of BossUp Babes. But yeah, you guys, if you're not familiar with who I am, I'm your host, Karissa Adkins. I am a weight loss and habit change coach, your ultimate badass boss babe champion for all things health, habits, and happiness. So just a quick reminder, if you totally love my style, if you're loving this, the content that we're putting out, I would really love a review. That would be my Christmas request, is a 5-star rating and review. So after you listen to today's, episode, I would sure love it if you could just comment below and share me your thoughts about it. Share me what you like about the show. So with that, I'm going to dive right into my guest. I don't want to do anything crazy today because I've got some amazing, I've got an amazing story for you guys. Now, I know I say that probably every week when I come on, but Meghann's story really does touch me, and it really speaks close to me. I was abused, and I'm married to a military man, so I just can't imagine this stuff happening in the real world. If you haven't had a chance to read Meghann's bio yet, please do so. But let me just kind of give you a quick intro to Meghann, and then we'll bring her on the show. So Meghann is an Air Force Veteran Firefighter who was sexually assaulted while deployed overseas. Upon coming home, her career was ultimately ended, and she was left feeling hopeless, lost, and in the dark, and really probably in a mental and physical and emotional space of not so good space. She was introduced to NLP, which we are going to talk about today, of course. If you're like, what the heck is NLP? Meghann is an NLP master, so I can't wait to pick her brain on that. But she was introduced to NLP shortly after, she was let go. And it's really helped her gain freedom from her trauma and the things that she's went through. And in my opinion, she's went through the personal transformation of someone who's went through some crap, like we all have, to someone who's learned how to overcome that struggle, which some of us haven't and some of us have. And now she's teaching people how to do it. And she's literally helping, people out in this world overcome their trauma too. So she has a book out there. It's called She Did It, featuring 20 female entrepreneurs. You guys, the list goes on and on. I told you she's fantastic. So with that, Meghann, welcome to BossUp Babes podcast and TV show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. I'm kind of thankful for COVID because it's really allowed so many people to just like step outside of the norm and get into just, setting up shop in the kitchen or in a dining room and just do it.
Right. Yeah, it is really cool. I think it's definitely, of course, the people that were like, oh, I've been doing this before COVID, right? But Yeah, I mean, it definitely has kind of forced people to absolutely get out of their comfort zone and find innovative ways, like how do you connect with people and still be able to do what you do without being in an office or in the typical setting. So it's been awesome.
I know, I love that. Cool. Well, I like to just start off before we dive into your story, which is going to be some for, it's going to be hard for some people to probably hear. If you've been through some sort of abuse or some kind of major trauma, I just want to remind you that you can always kind of stop what you're doing, put your hands on your heart center and just breathe. So if you're hearing anything that is touching you, maybe it's bringing a tear to your eye, feel free to just stop and breathe and then come back when you're ready for sure. But before we dive into that deeper stuff in your story, I love to just kind of kick off the conversation with a question that I was asked. I was actually on a podcast interview earlier today. It was a podcast called Aging Gracefully. And
Okay.
I love when I don't know the questions because like I just go with it. And she asked me, she goes, if you could go back in time to your 5-year-old self, what would you have told her? So
Oh,
now I'm going to put that question on you. What would you have told your 5-year-old little self about the world?
I love that, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, would you go back and start over? But that's good because you can go back and for me, I would give myself the knowledge of my stuff I have now. I think, building up my confidence and making me well, not making me, but having the mindset even at 5, because we think, oh, they're so young and they can't comprehend. Kids are very smart and kids know stuff and they are way smarter than we give them credit for. And you think about if I were to have the tools that I have now as 5, I would have I would have had a completely different life. And not to say that those things didn't shape who I am, but I'd be looking at myself in the mirror and telling me, I think I put so much pressure on myself. We always, I was a perfectionist. It's still hard to get rid of that habit and to not feel like a complete failure when things don't go your way, which we already know most everything does not go the way that we plan. So I
I like
think that
this.
that's, yeah, like we have a plan, but it always goes a different way.
Yeah.
So realizing that, letting up on the reins a little bit and learning to live in the now and live presently and appreciate life instead of always worrying about what I didn't have or worrying like getting to that next step because that takes away our joy and takes away our freedom.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell myself.
Good. Just enjoy the now. Everything will be okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, I am definitely curious because we've only been able to connect really back and forth through Messenger. I've heard a little bit, I've read a little bit, and I was like, yes, please, I need you on my show. I need to hear your story. So tell us about your story. Tell me where it all started, kind of not where it all, I don't want to know about birth, Meghann, because we have just a little bit of time for your story because I really want to get into strategies. But what hurdles have you had to overcome in order for you to get to where you are right now?
Well, first I want to say again, thank you so much for having me. I'm super honored to be a guest and to be able to help you and help myself, obviously, and all the other people out there who are listening. So thank you so much for having me here. Um, you know, basically, I look back, I'm like, where did it start? Because I remember having, way before I joined the military, I look back even on my like teenage years, I had really, really rough teenage high school years, which I'm sure a lot of people did who didn't have a rough high school time. And I didn't have the self-confidence that I had. And a lot of that came from, that was my first sexual assault was in high school.
Wow.
And so my assault in the military was not my first time. And we think of, oftentimes we think of sexual assault as only rape, right? Some people truly only think that sexual assault is any unwanted sexual contact. And I think about the situations that I was in, especially as a younger person, where I was so uncomfortable and things like I was compromised in, and I felt like I didn't want to even, I was scared to stand up for myself. And that really affected me at a young age. I had no self-esteem. I thought I was unattractive. And I thought, just all these horrid things that I thought about myself. And that carried on into my adulthood to where I started to continually attract those kinds of people into my life, especially men. And I'm 40 and I had years and years and years. I still don't have it figured out. And
Yeah.
I put so much blame on myself. Like, why am I not married? Why, but I'm like, oops, there goes Mary. I had all these, just we learn those patterns. We're creatures of habit. And we also, this goes into NLP, which I'll start talking about later, but everything we do starts on the unconscious level. Our
Mhm.
habits are formed on the unconscious level. So therefore, when we're younger and that we learn that stuff as kids, we continue to make those choices and have those habits of patterns of behavior due to how what we learned when we were younger. And especially when you have trauma or assault or rape or abuse at a younger age, it massively impacts us into our adulthood. So that's kind of where it started, I would say, right
And
about
that,
14.
do you find, I mean, do you, what you work predominantly with men or women? Remind me who you work with.
It's interesting because when I first started doing it, when I first started getting into NLP coaching, I thought my ideal client was, it was kind of more women, right? Because typically, statistically speaking, usually women are a higher percentage of sexual assault survivors or, rape, things like that. But I've kind of geared more, I've been getting so much more pull from the veteran side because of sharing my story and the connection with other veterans. And I've had a ton of men reach out to me and share their story with me. And I think
Yeah.
for men, it's even harder because we live in a society where they're told to, it's like, you can't have weakness, right? Sign of a weakness. And I could not imagine having to, live that stigma and then having to, and being a man who was raped or assaulted. So I think that has come into play a lot where I kind of felt like it was more women, but I've definitely seen more of a mixture and seen
Sure.
a lot of men reach out to me personally. And it's been awesome to work with both.
Yeah. And I'm sure, right? Totally different perspectives, different
Yeah.
experiences for sure. I guess where I was trying to get to with that question was, do you find that, I guess men or women now, do you find that it's been a repeated pattern for a while? And did it start typically from younger age than career? Because I know I've been assaulted in my past career. Like the sad thing was, Meghann, if you can get this, and then I want to go back to that question, was
Absolutely.
when I was hired on in my corporate job, right? This is before coaching and everything. The last marketing gal told me, some guy came around and slapped her ass. And she goes, "Oh, that's so and so." And I was like, "Is that appropriate?" And she goes, "Well, that's pretty normal. And he means nothing by it. And he's just his way of saying hello." And I'm like, this is what I have to do. Like, that was kind of my welcoming. It's crazy that happens still to this day. But would you
Yeah.
say that that is a repeated pattern? Do you think that?
I would say, yeah. I mean, we obviously can't generalize the entire human
Yeah.
population, but typically, yeah, because that is the culture. And that, like, exactly what you said, it's like, oh, that's just that person. Oh, he doesn't mean anything by it. But does he though? And since when do we, and that's what I'm saying, like when it goes back to, I look at stuff where it wasn't that I was okay with that. And I think I did beat myself up. Like, why didn't I stand up for myself? And why wasn't I adamant and vocal towards, especially towards men, and inappropriate gestures or comments or things said and done to me? But that, as most women know, that is like, that's normal for us.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that's like what we consider the norm in our society because, like, oh, well, that's just what guys do.
Right.
And it's like, wait a second, no, that's not okay. We don't put our hands on somebody. We don't, that's not just what people do because they feel that way. Like, no.
To spin the table, me and my husband just had a conversation about the first time he was stationed in Guam. He was walking
Mhm.
through a club and he goes, "I experienced the very first time what women probably feel like every day going into a club." He's like, "I was grabbed and like, just go to the bathroom." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Ah,
welcome to our life." Like, it's annoying AF, you guys.
yeah.
Well, and I didn't mean to like bring us down that path. I was just wondering because as someone who's been, abused as a child and then in my teens, and like you always fear that, is this a pattern that I'm finding myself? Because I feel like sometimes we blame ourselves as, this must be a me thing. I must be attracting the wrong types of people, like what's going on. And before I let you chime in on that, we are going to take a quick break. You guys, we're going to continue our conversation with the amazing Meghann, trauma expert, NLP, like amazing master coach, right? Like, so we're going to learn about NLP, how to heal from this kinds of trauma, and the different types of assaults that is out there. But we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
You a busy mom, on the go, trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle?
Roxanne, what are you doing?
Look, Mom, it's Derek Brooks.
Derek Brooks, what are you doing here?
I'm here to tackle that soda. Try Thin Energy, the healthy alternative. Eat healthy, drink healthy.
Plant-based, no caffeine, no sugar added, and it's only 5 calories.
The best offense is defense for your health.
Available at your local retailer.
Hello, you guys. We are back from, and we are really just from anywhere. We're both from different places in the world. Doesn't matter, but we are back with Meghann. And Meghann was just telling us about how, you know, like sexual assault doesn't just happen to women, it happens to men out there. And we were starting to talk about different situations and we've heard her story. So if you're just kind of chiming in, make sure you go back and listen to the very beginning. She's got an amazing story. And I know we only touched a smidge on it, but Meghann, now that we're back, go ahead and tell us where people can find you, because I don't want to forget that, of course, in the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can look me up. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook personal is just Meghann Trapp. My page is Meghann Trapp Coaching. And then same with Instagram is Meghann Trapp Coaching.
Okay, beautiful. And you have a book. Tell me
Yes.
really quickly about your book.
That was really cool because actually it was like barely 6 months after I got certified as an NLP practitioner in 2019. And I had someone reach out to me and say, hey, we want you to write a chapter for this book featuring 20 female entrepreneurs and just giving advice to others. And I was like, awesome, I'm in. So that was kind of my start. And I am working on my own first book by myself too. So that'll be out.
I love that. Didn't realize that. So we both kind of started with our first books of collaboration books, which helps us pave the way. It's like, oh, this was not so bad. Like now we can our own book. I love that. Okay, so let me just dive in because I am curious because I know what NLP is. I actually have a member on my team who is an NLP master. She works a lot with the subconscious mind for my clients. But I want to know for everyone else who's like, what NLP? Like, tell us what NLP is and how it can help people.
Yeah, I know it's funny because when I tell that people too, they're like, what? You know, some people know it or they don't. So NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. I use Tony Robbins as a good example because he's like the most famous NLP coach. I mean, those of us that do know Tony, he's like, you know, right? I mean, he coaches celebrities like Pitbull and, you know, Conor McGregor and guys like that. Really, it's just using the tools that you learn through hypnosis and learning how to tap in. I mean, you think about our brains, we're only using 5% of our brain. NLP teaches you how to use the rest of our brain because we're taught to work in we think everything comes from the conscious mind. And really it's, like I said earlier, your habits and your behaviors are formed on the unconscious level. So when you learn how to kind of undo everything with the perceptions that we have and retrain your brain, it's like rewiring the neurons in your brain basically, and how to use those goals through hypnosis and coaching and timeline therapy is what I'm also certified in, to go and release all these major negative emotions and be able to move through things a lot quicker in life, or a lot more realizing that you have the control to go and do and be and say whoever you want to, you know, you choose to be in life.
Yeah.
So it's really powerful stuff.
And what would be your favorite part, or do you have a specific client? You don't have to say names, but do you have a specific client who's had amazing transformation?
You know, I would say it's really hard because it's all like, it's just fascinating. Maybe just because even on the science side of it, it's like, I mean, it's insane when you think about it. Like I said, when you're going through, I mean, because I had to go through the same thing that I coach my clients on just to get my certifications. I would say I like to use my example because I was someone who was just so, I mean, I had horrid PTSD from my trauma. I was just anger. We start with the 5 major negative emotions. Anger is the first one, which is, it's on purpose, you know, it's no coincidence. And when someone who has a lot of hurt, as you know, someone who's been, you know, raped or assaulted or any kind of trauma in our lives, the anger masks the hurt. And when I released my anger, I mean, it was insane. I actually had a physiological reaction. I got sick when I was coming out of hypnosis. The room started spinning and I had all this pain that I was carrying in my body that was manifesting as pain because of the emotional crap and the baggage that I was holding on to for like 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was literally like putting on a new filter on my eyes, like seeing the world in a completely different way.
I love it. You guys, if you're not like, if you don't see us, go back and watch it maybe, but like it lights my eyes up because I've been, you know, coached from an NLP coach. Like there's a reason why I have a coach on my team because I'm like, I can't do everything. And that's what you do. And I remember like the breakthroughs that you can have in a matter of an hour, and every night almost I go to bed to my hypno session. I never know what to call it, but my hypno session that my coach a long time ago gave me a bunch of recordings, and I love it, right? We can we really can, I don't want to say manifest, don't put that in there, but
well, yeah, no, manifest is a great, that's perfect, because you're manifesting.
Confidence, abundance, releasing these emotions. Like I'm like, oh my, and I love timeline therapy. So you guys go check out what Meghann's doing if you are experiencing any of those. What, but anger, and is there shame in there?
Anger, hurt, sadness, fear, and guilt.
Okay. Yeah.
And I probably said them in the wrong orders, but yeah, those are the 5.
I've experienced like every single one of those sometimes.
Right.
So yes, I definitely am a huge believer in that. Okay. So sexual assault within the military. Like you would think that we are gone are the days that this stuff happens, but tell me how still.
And it's crazy because I'm telling this. Yeah. I tell my story now, right? Like, I mean, I've only been out 2 years, and people go, wait, what? This still happens? And I'm like, yeah, this still happens in this day and age. I was deployed at the time. I was in the Middle East, and, I'd been in, it was 2016. So I'd been in since 2009. I'd been in for some, I was a staff sergeant, I was an NCO, I was a firefighter. I had, I just excelled at my job. I loved serving, loved what I did. And it was somebody that I was dating. And I've never dated anybody in deployment, because that stuff just kind of, it's like, why would you date anybody in deployment? It just happened, but found out that this guy had been lying about being married and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was like, are you insane? You just jeopardized my career. You're a scumbag. Yeah. Cut off everything. And the next thing you know, he flipped out on me. I mean, completely went crazy and started stalking me. And that's how my assault occurred. And wow. It was horrific. I mean, they kept me downrange while going through my investigation, like while OSI was doing my case, and he was back stateside. And I was NCOIC, which is NCO in command of the 911 dispatch operations and logistics for the entire fire department, 2 huge jobs. Okay. And I had all these airmen underneath me that I was supervising. And I mean, you can imagine the stress alone of being deployed, but having that, all this stuff. I had torn my rotator cuff, broken my tailbone. I mean, this was all at the same time. I was finishing my last class for my degree, for my fire science degree. I mean, it was insane. Mm-hmm. And I came home, and the case was kind of winding down. They were still, going about it the way they could, but it was horrific. I mean, the stuff that was said about me, my chain of command, my own unit, is really ultimately who ended my career. So not only was my perpetrator protected by his commander from actually being charged with this and actually having consequences and repercussions for his behavior, to have a lieutenant colonel sit there and say, oh, this isn't conducive Air Force values, but we're going to just demote him, right. Whatever. Right. So all that stuff happened. And then it was my HIPAA was violated. I had people, bad mouthing my career and my reputation. And ultimately that's how I got out. And it left me in a place where I didn't want to live anymore. I mean, I had everything I loved taken away from me, 10 years of serving. And it left me in a place where I was like, I don't care if I die, because I just can't do this. Yeah. So yeah, to go from up there to there. And that's what led me, thank goodness, to NLP, to really, I had no other option. I mean, I would have been a statistic of the 22. Sure. So.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, well, like, first off, I don't want to I don't want to forget to thank you for your service, and to thank you for being strong, right, for men and women. And so I don't know if you guys have noticed, like, she doesn't play this victim, like the woe is me. She's like, it happens. It's still very relevant. So now let's flip that switch. And how can someone who's gone through something like this get out of that victim mindset and take that pain and turn that into like empowered, inspired action, besides NLP, obviously, like the whole like therapy that's going to like change your life and help you heal. But like, how do you think people, how do you work with people specifically to help them go from that victim mindset to very empowered?
That's a good point, because I definitely was for a while. Like, it was funny too, because in my mind, I always thought, I'm a strong person. I am not a victim. But even the best of us, we fall into that. I mean, even when they were investigating it and I was getting the help that I needed from the certain people at first, they kept telling me, you're a victim, you're a victim, you're a victim. And I'm like, how many times do we say that? Even people who are in positions of trying to help, we say victims of sexual assault. Yeah. I like to say I'm a thriver now. I even said survivor for a while, because I was like, I don't like the word victim, especially when you use labels. But really, for me, it was looking at, okay, going from being in the victim place and saying, okay, yes, I cannot control that person. I do not own his actions. I do not own his behaviors, but I do own my actions and behaviors. The hardest thing to do was to realize that I attracted that person, not his actions, into my life because of my unhealthy patterns of behavior. And it was through, like I said, through just NLP and other stuff combined, I think having the right people in my life. So, having there's things that led up to it. There's a lot more involved, but for someone that doesn't have NLP, just finding a way to say, like, I can either let this define me or I can move past that, because that wasn't hurting him. It was hurting me,
Yeah. And if I could like mic drop that, I would have let my mic drop, but it's not going to drop. But I love that. You even gave us, like, you ended this show on a beautiful note with a great strategy. Like, you may not have the resources to go out and hire someone who's certified and all that great stuff. You can't maybe find it, hire a coach, but you can start to, first off, you can choose to not identify, right, as a victim. You can say, okay, no, I am a survivor. And then it goes to a thriver. And I love that. And then also it's like just the way you talk to yourself, like, like how you introduce, like, I am not, you're like, I am not this, I'm actually this. And those are like easy things that you can do. Obviously not when you're in the deep of the pain. That's really hard, guys. We're talking like after you've somewhat seen the light, you can start to feel more empowered. Meghann, I can feel that empowerment through this interview. And I just, I appreciate your time today. And I thank you so much for being a part of the BossUp Babes show. So
Absolutely.
with that, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so glad I was able to come share.
Awesome. You guys, if you are looking for an NLP coach who can help you, make sure you go check out Meghann, and all of her information will be below in the notes. You can find her, definitely reach out, DM her for sure. And if you are totally switching gears, but tis the season, if you are looking to get fit in 2022, I would love to invite you to my Facebook group. It is called The Healthy Hustle. And in that Healthy Hustle Facebook group, I'm giving you free tips, hacks, advice, and support for everyone who wants to lose weight and just really increase their mental and physical health. So with that, you guys, I hope you have a beautiful Thanksgiving. Have a beautiful time. Just really being mindful with family. And remember, you get to define however your holiday looks. It doesn't have to look like everyone's cookie cutter Thanksgiving. So with that, have a beautiful day.
Thank you for listening to Boss Up Babes with Karissa Adkins, bringing you tangible tips and expert coaching advice to help you boss up and get healthy. Tune in every second and fourth Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com for interviews with industry leaders and powerhouse boss babes that will empower you to take action and live your best life. If you're ready to boss up and work with Karissa in one of her transformative group coaching programs, visit 365dailyhustle.com.